Good morning, people of Earth. We got Ryan, we got Lebang, we got me, we got you, we got all the things we need, all the ingredients we need for a good Wednesday morning, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
Indeed. Well, I'm just checking. Is there anything that's missing? Let me just go through the list here. Yes, actually, you know what we need?
What?
We need to actually get through the rest of November before we can consider ourselves on holiday, which is what the rest of the country seems to not understand. But
This is South Gareth. December started last week.
I know.
If you didn't know, now you know.
I know. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they're like, "Oh, you know, it's almost the end of the year." I'm like, "No, you are not to say that.
Stop it."
That is pure laziness creeping in, and I hate it. It drives me up the wall. So, what's been happening? Let's start off with you, Ryan. What's been going on with you? I see you still wearing Springbok colors. Is that a Protea top? What is that you got on?
This is my rugby jersey, Gareth. This is what happens when you spend R1,000 2 weeks before the World Cup ends.
He's gonna make it work. Y'all are gonna see.
Yeah, you're not letting go of that anytime soon, right?
Well, it's just sitting there, and I'm like, you know what? This is still brand new. So, and now they're releasing another one with 4 trophies on the side. That special Rugby World Cup one. So now we're gonna brace ourselves for that. But yeah, rugby jerseys they're expensive.
Yeah, it's amazing to me how there's always like a money-making scheme right before anything happens. Yeah, it's like, oh, we've got like this many days left. Let's try and sell as many of these as we can.
Sure.
I wonder how it's been going for Takealot with that deal that they made, where they basically
with the TVs.
Over the TVs. How funny is that, right?
I would love if anyone in the comments has bought a TV and has got refunded. Please let us know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd love to know. But I want like a first-hand version. I don't want some rubbishy version from somebody. Oh no, well my brother's cousin's uncle's aunt's, seventh bus driver's friend. That's the person who's going. I want like a first-hand version where somebody goes, I actually got the money. They paid me in full for my television. Because that would be quite cool. You basically got a free TV. And who doesn't want one of those?
Yeah, and the timing is right. It's almost Black Friday, so everybody's like, it's beginning. The hustle and bustle of, what are we gonna get? And the marketing has begun. So yeah, 'tis the season to get TVs, indeed.
I just have to say, Gareth, that camera does wonders for you. Like,
right?
That switch up that you just did, that was insane.
He went from 1999 to 2005.
So the one that I had on before that was the one that's on my laptop, and I was actually thinking the other day, this laptop has served me very well. This thing's probably about 5 years old now,
Sure.
and it's still doing the job. It's.
Yeah.
I don't need to get a new one. I don't need to update it. I don't need to change it, and it still does all the things. But the one thing about it that is shitty is that like FaceTime camera. And it's funny how, despite the fact that we got through like COVID and everybody having to learn how to use these cameras, and having to learn to do video conferencing and being able to get, some people just still like the camera looking right up their nostrils, and you see it sometimes. You see it sometimes on the news as well. There's like these meetings going on somewhere in South Africa, and there's somebody who's sitting, and the camera is like right here.
It's like Cyril energy.
Like you still haven't figured out that this is the way to do it. It's unbelievable.
Do you remember when you did that episode with, I think it was Aki, and just when he had his whole virtual like studio thing going, and he, like, showed us all his technology that he got going? Yes. That was cool.
Well, also Rich Mulholland helped us because he was so ahead of the game. He was trying to like get people all clued up on how to do this stuff better and look better and just make it all professional.
Can you imagine what presentations must have been like before COVID? Like, because then everyone is still
yes.
figuring out the stuff. Now, COVID, everyone's kind of a
We don't need to
professional.
imagine. We were there.
We
We were
we
very much
know,
present.
right? We were alive. You know,
Yeah.
it wasn't that many years
It
ago.
wasn't that long ago. Can
It
you
was
imagine
like
like before COVID?
No, but
That's
I
what the
mean,
kids are
'cause
gonna say
now-
in
I love
20
the way-
years.
yeah, Ryan's talking to us like we're speaking about a time before there was any technology at all. You know, the time when people still had phones that you'd have to go click, click, click.
Phones that still had. Remember what phones were like with buttons, actual buttons you had to press? Yo, Ryan, you are funny.
Oh, that's so
Oh,
funny.
man.
What a time.
Oh, Zach says, I heard Boney M playing in the mall yesterday. I was not a
Oi.
Yeah.
all you have type music that disturbed me. Well, that's what they do. That's why they play that stuff.
Just stay away from
Yeah,
malls.
well,
At
I
your
mean-
earliest convenience, just try keep away from malls. You walk in there with the intention of purchasing one thing, and you walk out with at least 40.
Yeah.
You see that green pharmacy that starts with a D. Stay
Mm.
away. Stay away. Hear me, hear me. That place is a disaster. You walk in there, you're like, oh, I do need wet wipes. Yo, hey, it's a trap.
Yeah, no, I see comments are flying in about Mariah Carey, but did you see that video she posted online?
Brilliant, brilliant.
How good is that, Gareth? Did you see it?
Well, she's owned it now, right? She's
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
owned-
she's
is-
owned it.
She's like the Christmas fairy, and she's like she owns the fact that they unlock and unthaw her for Christmas, and then she comes out in a Christmas outfit. And
So good.
but I mean, I would love to be Mariah Carey at Christmas. Must be the happiest person ever because she just knows ka-ching, 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 ka-ching. It's
Bro.
time for her to like cash in all the money that she's ever wanted every December. She could spend up to December. She could spend everything she has. She'll make it
Yeah.
all back. Just
Yeah.
during the
Well,
month.
She doesn't need to perform for the rest of the year. She doesn't need to release new music. Mariah Carey
No.
will never go on a world tour. You'll never see her on Dancing with the Stars. The money she makes in 30 days is enough to sustain her and her legs that are insured and her throat that's insured. Like she's literally unlocked how to be an eternal artist, in my opinion. Like it's brilliant.
No, well, her lawyers have to start working because everybody sees how much money she's making, and now she's being sued again for like 120 million.
Kidding.
I haven't, I haven't looked into it. I need to actually find it. I totally forgot to even look it up,
Oh.
but I just saw headlines that she's being sued again, and I'm like, oh,
Guys,
it's all because of that song again.
leave Mariah alone. She's not hurting anyone. Sure, she's hurting our pockets, but she's harmless.
What's the story about the Simpsons that you have, Ryan?
Oh, so Gareth, you're gonna hate this so much, but that's why I thought I'd bring it to your attention. There were headlines going on in a recent episode of The Simpsons. Homer points out that he no longer is strangling Bart. See, this is it here. Do you remember this?
Of that. That's how he disciplined his son.
Because times have changed.
Oh,
So
God.
now the show must evolve, and everyone must just not see this anymore because times have changed.
But
'Cause
who's
I
the
don't know
target
about you.
market for The Simpsons?
Older people.
Well, everyone.
It's definitely the same people. I don't
Yeah.
think kids of today are now like, oh, The Simpsons. They're not the target audience. If you watched The Simpsons back then, you probably and you liked it. You're still the guy that's watching it in your older
yeah.
years. So it's okay. We don't switch it up. It's okay. Don't change it for us. We liked it as it is. If it's not broken, don't fix it.
And it's so annoying because even people from the Guardian now, I put this link
Oh,
up
God.
there.
The Guardian is the worst newspaper in the world.
Exactly. And look
The
at this
worst.
headline. Look at this headline. Check out this. Wait, is it playing? There.
Homer
Homer
has
has
stopped strangling Bart in The Simpsons, and it's about time.
And look at the
Oh.
guy who wrote it. Like, dude,
Okay, he looks traumatized.
Okay, so can I tell you what? It is. I've now reached the point, and yesterday we had Jack McClunty in, and he's on the same page as me here. I do not think that we should any longer humor people who tell us that they're upset by words, by pictures, by colors, or any of that shit. We should now tell those people just to fuck off. It's enough. I mean, with Julius saying the other day, well, the Springbok emblem offends and upsets him. Well, like, then you must grow a pair, my friend. Then stop being a little baby from the, I don't know, the most soft and sensitive part of the world, where nothing's ever happened that really actually gets in your way in life. This is just another example of what
It's too
we
much.
should go out of our way to make these people unhappy.
As far as the list of things that are wrong in the world, Gareth, and like if we're
Jesus.
to put them in order of like importance, number 2763 is the fact that Bot is no longer being strangled, and it's about goddamn time, and there's a small group of people who are fighting for that. There's real things going on that we should be putting our attention onto. And the mere
Exactly.
fact that we're just getting distracted by a
Right.
small group of people who are really talking out of their asses. Let's be honest. People are just talking for attention now. It's annoying. It's annoying. Guys, get in line. Everybody's got a problem with something these days.
Yeah.
Yo. Hey.
Now they're running a nice cartoon.
It's
like, oh my God.
it's just stupid. And really the fact that anybody is still doing this, that because it all falls apart the moment you go, I don't care. The moment somebody
Exactly.
says, I'm hurt by this, or this offends me, or it's time to change this, or this is problematic,
Get
or
in
whatever,
line.
just say, no, just say these words. Like, I'm so sorry it does, but actually I don't give a shit. Then
Hey.
everything, all the crap melts away. It just goes.
Mm,
That's the end of the story. There's no need to discuss it anymore. You just
it's
go,
done.
I don't care. I don't.
It's
I
probably
really-
the attention. Once you give them that attention and you give them the air and you go, tell me more. Unpack your fears and your needs further for me so I can personally be of assistance. That's where you've already like it's the problem. Just immediately say, sorry, I'm on a different path and just like keep it moving.
Can you imagine the sort of person and the kinds of difficulties that they're going to have the whole way through their lives if they're upset by Bart Simpson being a cartoon, being strangled by his cartoon father in an obvious cartoon way. Like, imagine this. Your life is so dreary that this picture sends you into a fit of apoplexy because you don't know how to deal with it.
I think therapy is the solution. Just go to therapy. If you see this and you're traumatized because it reminds you of how you were raised or whatever, go to therapy.
Guys, I mean, it's so funny. Like, when I see this, all I can hear is, why you little?
Yeah, I mean,
And now
it's funny.
more of that.
It's not serious. And now The Simpsons is also going to be sanitized. It's just another example of just boring people being in charge of
Bored.
things.
Boring people being bored.
Yeah.
And boring us in the process.
I wonder if that has anything to do with it being on Disney Plus, because now it's under the Disney umbrella.
Probably.
Yeah,
'Cause
most likely.
Disney
Because that
so-
audience is kids.
so woke.
So
There's a very funny scene from South Park, some new episode of South Park, where Disney's, I think it's Kathleen Kennedy, who's in charge of the whole Star Wars franchise now. And all she says to everything, from like casting the movie to what's wrong with the movie to while she's directing the movie to while she's ordering a steak, is put more chicks in it and make her gay. That's all it says.
wow.
The character just goes, put more chicks in it, make her gay. That's all.
Yeah, trust South Park. Trust them to go there.
I see. I think that's one show they won't touch.
I mean, they've been trying for years, right?
Yeah.
They've been trying for years to find things that are wrong with South Park and complain and it's still going on. So yeah.
Well, anyway, I mean, look, all that's going to happen is eventually everything that these woke companies touch is going to just become so dreary that we're going to become as bored as the people who are bored enough to make this a problem.
Sure.
And they all look like this. All those people.
Damn.
Oh wow.
And
What's
it says
going
here,
on?
56% of young liberal white women have been diagnosed with a mental disorder, according to a Pew study. How surprised are you? Look at them.
This is like all one version of the same person. It all looks like one remix person.
And it's like they go out of their way, this kind of person, to make themselves as ugly as possible.
And as loud.
Oh,
And
yeah.
as loud. They're just causing scenes everywhere. Just like stop. Go home and chill, bro. Life is just chill, relax,
Oh.
relax. Yo, yeah, no.
If Gareth doesn't like that, you're gonna hate what I have lined up for you now as well.
Oh gosh, Ryan, you're on a roll today, buddy.
No, I'm on a roll. I
You
just saw
trying
a
to get
couple
me
things.
upset first thing in the morning. Is this your whole game?
Imagine.
Can I tell you, yesterday when I was trying to think of what I wanted to talk about, it was like it all just came to me. I didn't have to think of it. I was like, oh, this is gold. This is gold. This is gold.
Go on.
All right, are you ready for this?
Mhm.
So there's an influencer, I think she's Polish, right? And she just put a TikTok up recently that's blown up because she got a tattoo of her boyfriend's name on her forehead.
Yo, what year is it, guys, by the way?
Can you imagine? Like, look how big that is.
And she's beautiful, man. She's like actually beautiful. And she's just gone and botched her entire face.
Yeah, all right. I've always said I don't have a problem with tattoos, and I don't.
I don't either.
That woman, she's got tattoos going up her neck in the first place. So she's already, I just think, there's nothing wrong with a couple of tattoos, but if you've got an entire like rose vine going up your neck here and everything, it makes me wonder, unless you're hiding a scar, why would you do that?
I disagree, Gareth. I think that part is pretty cool. I mean,
Yeah.
the going up the neck, I'd love to do something like that. Maybe not roses, but I would personally, get a little something. It's the forehead application of a name that is not yours.
And
that's where
also a boyfriend, not even like a
Guys,
not a husband.
Yeah.
The Kevin tattooed on her forehead is obviously the stupidest thing in the whole world. So we don't need to debate.
For sure.
That's just dumb on all counts. But the vines going up her neck, I really think, unless you're a prisoner or a sailor, I know times have changed, but there's nothing wrong with having a tattoo or one or two here or there. I happen to have none. I happen to find tattoos completely ambivalent as long as they're not all over you. But it's become like an obsession with some people where every bit of real estate has to be covered with tattoos. And it's almost inversely proportional. The more interesting someone is, the more tattoos they don't have. Do you know what I mean? Like, let your personality come through in how you behave and who you are and what you say.
I hear that.
That kind of stuff.
Hear that.
It's like, again, someone is trying desperately to color in a very boring picture. Like, your picture is just fucking boring. Doesn't matter how much color you add to it, it's still a boring picture. The same goes for people who color their hair blue or for people who complain about The Simpsons. It's all related. It's a generation of young people, and I'm allowed to say this now because I'm old. It's a generation of young people who, instead of developing character
and actual personalities,
started to actually literally color themselves in like a children's coloring book with designs that most of the time they don't even come up with or that don't even have any meaning. They're trying to cover their actual skin because they find themselves dreary and boring without these symbols and patterns and things to make them seem to the world more interesting. They are actually not. They're just a bunch of dreary, middle of the road, uninteresting, dull fucking people who have nothing to contribute. And all they do is get addicted to the idea that this is somehow going to make them seem wonderful. Everybody's going to have a flock to have a conversation with them or to be around them or to have sex with them or to want to be near them. And the truth could not be further than they could possibly imagine. The more tattoos you have, almost invariably, the less developed your character.
I don't know. I feel like some people's suit tattoos, like
it's some people,
there's some friends of mine who've got like many tattoos, and I actually can't picture them without their tattoos. Like it's formed part of their identity, and
but they don't make their whole identity their tattoos.
No. Well, I mean, my one friend's a tattoo artist, so that kind of is his thing. But my other friends who aren't, they've got some really cool tattoos, and they keep getting more of them. Yeah.
Let me ask you something. Lebang, when did you first get your first tattoo?
I was 27 in 2017.
27.
When you're 27.
Yeah, I got it quite late. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that's because I
You
didn't want to. I got it here on this part of my
Oh
arm.
wow, you went full.
I went full, half
Nice.
sleeve, and then when I turned 30, I did the rest, which goes up here. But I waited. Like, I didn't just want to get a tattoo for the sake of it. I was like, I want a design that I actually connect with, something that I like. I didn't just like, want to do something for the sake of doing something. So.
And what is your arm tattoo about? What's the story?
So it's pretty much like I call it the life of Bang, the evolution of Bang. It's pretty much, if you look here on my hands, I've got a little cross and I've got a little musical note over there. So those are the things that I care about and the things that I've based my whole life on. So like that's like my birth. And then as I grew and evolved into like a young lady, you can see there's like a half lion. I don't know if over there. It's like a half lion. Yeah. So this was like my teens when I kind of started finding myself as like a young leader in high school. Like I kind of grew up a little bit shy. And then as I grew up, my personality started like shining. And then I really started being more like, present in class and like, that kind of person. So that was like the big switch from shy little Lebang to really outgoing, like, loud in class. And then, further on up. Yeah, and then further up, there's like a picture. When I turned 30, I got like a picture of almost like an illustration of a lady with like flowers on her eyes. And when I turned 30, I don't know, I just kind of feel like my life completely changed. I just went from like young, turning up, having fun, and really just evolving into this woman, more than just a young girl. So this whole tattoo from here to my shoulder is like the evolution of Bang. That's what I've always called it.
Well, Simon says, I don't put us tattoo people in with those crazy ass hair color changes. Granted, the ones with too many tats are changelings also. 5 is the max. Well, you see, I mean, I'm not going to put a number on it. I'm not going to put a number on it. This is the first time. Look, Lebang is a good example of someone who breaks my theory, right? Because this is the first time we've ever spoken about your tattoo. Ever.
Yeah.
I didn't realize there was such a complex design that you came up with there. Like, it was a really personal design.
No, definitely. To Gareth's point, you can't just like get something and just like slap it on you, because then truly you are falling into that category of people that is just painting yourself.
I'm definitely, I think there are different kinds of people. Listen, again, I've got friends who've got tattoos. They've always had them. They've always loved them. They're always adding to them, changing them, making it different. I would never say that someone like Lebang or someone like Rich Mulholland are boring people who are trying to color in their world with tattoos. But I do think there are a ton of people who have found it as a means of expressing themselves, where the tattoos say stuff that they're either too shy or too boring to say themselves. That does happen.
Yeah.
Rich Mulholland has nice tattoos. Wow.
How many hot guys have you seen that are like buff and like full of tats, and then you say, "Hey, how are you?" and they go, "Hi." And there's like no personality, no conversation, and then you just get instantly disappointed. Like, it must match. Like, give me something. That's happened to me so many times. I'm like, you know what? It's exactly that. It's covering up what just isn't there, and more kids are doing it. We need to speak about the fact that there's like younger children who are just viewing tattoos as like a get out of having to have a life free card.
I'm still a little bit iffy about tattoos that go above the neckline. That's because there's still going to be, even in 2023, a large number of people in every society who will judge you and will think, well, like a face tattoo is totally out of bounds for me.
Yeah.
I could not take anyone with a face tattoo as seriously as I take people without the face tattoo. Yes, that's prejudice. So fucking what? If you don't like it, don't talk to me. That's all.
Keep it moving.
I don't have to like everybody. I don't have to be impressed with everything. I don't have to go, oh, wow, that's so nice. If a woman has a face tattoo, like this idiot woman that Ryan just put up now with her boyfriend's name tattooed on her forehead, literally on her forehead, I think you're just you're advertising to the world that you're a moron.
Shame.
I did put the video up if you want to see it, but I don't think you want to.
No.
I do think though, Gareth, the initial reaction of, thinking of tattoos as like, things from prison and like gangsters or whatever. That whole thinking is definitely lost. Like it's no longer relevant. People that
Not
have
to me.
tattoos today
Not to
are
me.
like
I still
multimillionaire
assume
business people.
I don't
Most
care.
like literally, like
I
real
still
talk, tattoos
sorry.
aren't reserved for a specific group of people anymore.
You don't just wipe out like hundreds of years of what tattoos were. And I mean, unless you're a Maori whose culture has included tattoos for the longest time, right? In fact, I think
Yeah.
that's where it comes from. Someone told me that the origin of the word tattoo, this is fascinating, comes from Captain Cook, Captain James Cook, who, circumnavigated the globe and discovered Australia, discovered in inverted commas, all that stuff. He met somebody, and apparently this person said the word tattoo, but it actually doesn't mean the face markings. And then it entered the English language through that voyage of Captain Cook. So there are people in the world who've been doing this for hundreds of years, but in most sort of Western societies, it was always prisoners and
Yeah.
gangsters and sailors. These are the
Back
sailors
in
would
the
do it.
day.
And it only became a sailing trend because of things like Captain Cook's voyage, because people were like, well, this is a cool way for me to show everybody on my arm where I've been in the world, so there would be symbols. And listen, whatever you do it for, that's your business. But you can't change the fact that I think it makes some people look better and some people worse. I think there's nothing more sexy than if someone has a beautifully designed tattoo in the right place and it complements their look. That's lovely.
Sure. Yeah.
But I also think if you've got like vines crawling up your throat and you've got like a teardrop in the corner of your eye and your boyfriend's name on your forehead, I'm allowed to think that you are probably very low class. I'm allowed to.
Sure. Look, I don't think we're trying to change your thoughts
No,
and what
not at
you
all.
think. Yeah, like you do
I
your
actually,
thing.
I actually think
You shouldn't care what I say.
society now,
100%.
modern
Exactly.
society now, like if you look, there's some tattoo stores, right, which are like franchises. They're not actual independent tattoos. Because I know there were some shops that won't tattoo your hands and neck and face unless you've gotten tattooed like fully, like
Elsewhere,
both
yeah.
arms, your chest. Like you have to kind of earn getting tattooed. It's so weird. Like this is what my friend was breaking down to me.
Okay.
But now the new modern tattoo shops that are like franchises, they basically can have like 12 people in at a studio and they can just tattoo whatever. There's no like, I don't know, thing to earn your way up
How
or whatever.
hard
So anyone can
how
just kind of get tattooed anyway.
how hard is it and how expensive is it to get them removed?
I haven't investigated that.
I don't think it's as difficult as it was before. Like now
think-
there's like laser what's.
I think
that you can-
it's sore and I think it's pretty quick, but I think you have to go for like a few sessions every couple weeks
yeah.
once your skin is like healed. But also it depends on the artist because some artists can go like really deep in the skin and go really dark. Like it depends on all who you go to. Some artists are quite light, so it does fade over time a little bit, but some artists really go in deep there, and then obviously you have to go more because it's gone through more layers.
You've got some tats as well, Ryan.
Yeah.
Tell us about your tats.
No, I got this one.
What is that?
I'm trying to like get in the frame here.
It's like something with wings. Okay.
I got that when the Linkin Park singer Chester Bennington died, and I
Oh,
liked the
jeez.
Linkin Park logo in because it was like one of my favorite bands at the time. And when he committed suicide, it was really sad. And I love Linkin Park. It was my first one I ever got, but I'm not a fan of line work now. So now I have the Eminem one, which is pretty cool.
I love that one. I love it. That one's so cool. And the Mac Miller one?
Yeah, I got Mac Miller.
That
Mac
is
Miller there
sick
as well.
That is sick. You see, you're lucky you went to somebody who knows how to do faces. Like the worst is when you go to a tattoo artist who just started their tattoo career all of last week, and now you've shown them what you want, and they've given you like someone with a sloppy.
I'm so fussy. I'm the worst when it comes to tattoos. It takes planning. Like this one took 2 years for me to like eventually just get.
Yeah. No, you need to. It's like your relationship with your barber. It's almost like that. You need to make sure you're going to the right person who's got skills and experience. You can't just like rock up and go to anyone. And if you do, that's cool for you. But yeah, no, I'm cool with that.
Joking atheist says, I have a tattoo on my penis that when it's flaccid, it says WY. When erect, it says, welcome to my pleasure factory that has a 2-hour ride limit, but I do hope you enjoy your stay.
6:30 a.m. on a Wednesday morning, ladies and gentlemen.
That's an expensive tattoo.
Yeah.
Listen, I also think if you're a good-looking person, you don't ruin yourself with tattoos. But if you're an ugly person, they don't help you. Really.
Oh man.
People are just going to start saying this stuff a little bit more because, again, I kind of blame David Beckham too for making like ordinary white people feel like they also needed to get tattoos.
Come on, it's Beckham.
Yeah,
Come
no,
on.
he would look terrible without
What?
tattoos.
Really?
I think
so. Beckham would look great either way.
No way.
No,
Those
definitely.
tattoos make him look sick.
You make no difference.
No.
He would be just as cool. He would be.
Yes.
He likes the other thing that you guys are not admitting is that once you've gone for a tattoo and people start to compliment you on it and you start to look at it in the mirror, you start to think, this is nice. And you want another one.
Definitely.
And then another.
It's addictive.
Yeah.
Definitely.
We know people are addicted to these things. And I don't know that that's always such a good thing. I'm not saying it's always a bad thing, but I think anything that's addictive like that, well, maybe you got to look at the reasons. What are the underlying reasons that you would want like 17 tattoos on your arms?
I think, and if seeing as this is honesty hour, it really is. It's how people respond to the fact that you've got all these cool tattoos. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Like people are always like, "Oh my gosh, your tattoos are so cool," and you're like, "Oh, yeah, thank you." That feeling is what you want more of. Like you don't sit there and like the pain of the needle going in your skin, like ting, 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 ting. That part isn't fun. But for most, it's like, okay, cool. Like, if you're using your body as a canvas to express yourself and you're getting the right tats or whatever that you like, people would usually resonate to that and say, oh, you actually look pretty cool. And you're like, oh, why, thank you.
It's also like a mutual thing. Like they know the pain that you've gone through to get that tattoo.
Sure.
And then they're like, respect.
Respect from one tatted person to another tatted person. Respect. You've earned.
Gareth, we've had some cool guests that have come
stripes.
through the doors and then they all have tattoos and we all for like 15 minutes look at each other's tattoos and we're like, wow, that's so cool. Who did you go to?
Can you send me your tattoo artist number? Where did you get it done?
You guys are wasting like 15 minutes because you can't make conversation.
We're a community, guys. We're a cult. Let us.
Imagine if we had grills. You had like a golden tooth, and this is how. Because there are people who also think those look very cool. Now, I'm sorry.
Some do, Gareth. Some people look really cool.
It doesn't. It just looks shit.
It does. Some grills are so fresh. We can't hate on the grills. Like some of them are like diamond. It's just, it's cool. People are expressing themselves. Let's let people do what they need to do.
I'm going to say this is what you look like. If you're covered in tattoos and you have a grill, you look like this car.
Yo, haterade.
I must be very different to other people because honestly, I do not have that please people gene. I just don't have it. I don't know where it is. Not sure if it was because I was raised differently. I was trying to think about it the other day. Both my parents are very well-mannered people. They don't say outrageous things. They don't upset people. They're good people. My sister's very well-mannered and my brother is. I just don't give a shit. Like, for example, yesterday, I saw Naledi Pandor. She put on like a headscarf to go and I think speak to the Iranians or something. Yes, she is. And so I mean, listen, she's an unfortunate-looking woman at the best of times, but I didn't attack her for looking funny. What I did is I said, because of this brown scarf, looks like she dressed up as a turd for Halloween, and a bunch of people got upset with me, and they're like, "Oh, well, how can you say that about a woman?" I'm like, it's not because. First of all, it's not because she's a woman.
Could have been anyone.
Because I would say that if there was a man in there. Then they go, it's because it's a person of color. I go, no, I'm referring to the color of the scarf, but it's interesting that that's what you think. that you immediately would jump to the fact that this is a woman of color, that's the thing. You think that's why I'm insulting her. Thirdly, they go, well, it's because she's a Muslim. Like, I didn't know Naledi Pandor was a Muslim, and it makes no difference to me. If she believed in crushing beetles with her feet and eating whatever's left, and that was her religion, it would make all of her points as a foreign minister just as piss poor. So I don't care about that either. Her identity and being nice about the things that I've just mentioned now, I'm not required to do that. There's nothing about any of those things. The fact that she's a woman, that she's a person of color, that she's a Muslim, which I don't know if that's even true. Someone said that to me. Like,
Sounds
none
like
of that means a damn thing to me. The quality of her comments and the content of her character and the inability for her to run a decent department of international relations and cooperation. Those are the reasons that I will be rude about her dressing up like a turd for Halloween. Plus, she looks like a turd for Halloween. So I don't feel bad about any of that stuff. And if that makes me a horrible person, maybe you should look at why you're worrying about me being a horrible person instead of worrying about the person who is supposedly representing us on the world stage. And you're
Mm.
okay with everything that she's saying and doing, even
Well,
though
change the channel. Change
she's
the
screwed up.
channel.
No, but don't turn your frustration or your satisfaction with mediocrity on me and make it about me being a horrible person. I don't need your approval. If you think I'm a horrible person, carry on with your life. I will be fine. I will still be expressing my opinion about Naledi Pandor long after you stop being upset with me. I will continue to say what I think, and I don't care what you have to say. I really could care less.
I
Now,
think that scares people, Gareth. It's scary to have somebody not give a fuck on that level. Like, we live in a time where you're not allowed to not give a fuck. You have to conform. You must go where the whole flock is going. You must believe in what the comment section says. You can't have your own opinion. How dare you? And that's just
well,
the fact of the matter. People are intimidated by that kind of character.
I wonder why, because to me it seems so stupid. Like, what is the point? How do you know you're free if you cannot speak your mind about someone who is in elected government office? How do you know
Sure.
you're free? The fact is, the people who are worried about me being mean are people who are not free. They're slaves. They belong mentally, they're in irons. They belong
Yeah.
to someone else. They belong to an ideology. They belong to their supposed idea of good manners, which is actually just sheep mentality, if you ask me. Then they're going around telling me. And by the way, there is no requirement on me to be well mannered. There is no requirement on me to be nice to you, and there's no requirement on me to feel bad about any of the shit that I say or do on a daily basis. If you don't like it, that's absolutely fine. But you cannot stop me from saying what I say, and you can't also force me to be polite. I don't have to. There's no requirement on me to be polite to a politician, ever. I will be rude to any politician at any time for any reason, and I reserve that right completely.
This is why Gareth needs to start his own political party so that he can continue to say whatever he wants and then back it up with the good work. Team Gareth, vote Gareth Cliff. That's what I'm here for. I'm waiting for you to turn like 56 and then realize that actually politics is the answer. You know, politicians, they only want to get into it later on in life. So you've got 15 years left of this.
You know why I wouldn't go into politics? For the same reason I've just explained why it's okay for me to criticize Naledi Pandor and any other politician, is I would then have to have people like me. It would be very important for me to be liked. And it's almost like those people who also criticize those of us who say things and speak our minds. And then they say things like, for example, oh, you're just doing it for the clicks, or you're doing it for attention, or you're doing it to please your fans. And what I find amazing about that is that I have spent almost my entire career in the media doing the opposite of pandering, if you'll pardon the use of the surname and the term in this particular context. I've done the opposite of pander to people. I don't go out of my way to be popular. If everybody is asking why something is blue and there's already an answer for blue, I start asking about other things to do with that thing. It seems to me like that's the sensible, intelligent way to behave. But a lot of people are really, it's important for them, so they think it would be important for me. So they say things like, "Oh, I can't believe someone in your position would say that's so disappointing." And I'm like, "You're not really disappointed in me. You didn't have any
You
expectation
don't
of me.
care
What you're
about me.
disappointed in is that I'm not a brainless, mindless attention whore like you are. You're not disappointed in me. You're disappointed in yourself. You're cross with me. You're cross with me for pointing out what a disappointment you are. And then you get cross with me for that. That's fine. I understand, but it doesn't mean I care.
Ryan, look what you've done.
No,
You've released the beast.
No, I know, but also I just want to point out politicians aren't trying to be liked in this country.
I mean, I feel like they
that's not a
desperately
thing.
are. No, they desperately are. Wasn't one of the women on that on the Springboks bus waving as if she had anything to do with that? They
Oh,
want to be
maybe,
liked
but,
so
like,
bad.
Some of them just really don't care. In fact, it actually blows my mind how much they don't care. I mean, we saw how Julius reacted on Twitter the other day. Not that I want to give him airtime, but
Did you see the story about the transport minister?
Oh yeah, who got robbed? Do we
So
believe that?
This is
I
an
didn't see
interesting story. So it definitely happened. Transport Minister Sindisiwe Chikunga and her bodyguards were robbed on the N3 on Monday. Transport Minister and her guards were forced to lie down on the floor. Apparently, they put spikes on the road, and
Ooh.
there's been a manhunt launched for the suspects. Brigadier Atlenda Mate said in a statement the personal belongings and 2 SAPS service pistols were taken during the incident. Members involved are receiving necessary support and counseling. I mean, these are bodyguards. They shouldn't have to go for counseling.
Counseling.
A manhunt has been launched. Police have blah, blah, blah.
Yada yada fish paste. So did this happen, yes or no?
Look.
Like, is it real?
Well,
is what I'm asking.
I can believe it.
It happened. So apparently these guys were they're 2 police officers and the minister that were hijacked. You can imagine she would have said to them, "Do you know who I am?"
Sure.
And they would have said, "I don't care. I want your stuff." Now, Becky Trele, the Minister of Police, said, "Oh, these criminals have gone too far. They will have to pay the price for this." I find that just unbelievably crazy. The Minister of Police, only now that they've robbed a minister, these people have gone too far?
Now
No,
they've
but
gone too far.
no, but also
Ordinary people in South Africa have been putting up with this shit for how long? Years. We all know someone in our families, among our friends, who've been hijacked or robbed or whatever. So Becky Taylor only cares. They've only gone too far once they rob a minister.
One of their own.
No, but
That's what he's saying. He's not saying he cares about anybody.
It's not
He's just saying,
surprising, Gareth. That is
"Oh,
right up his alley. You know they only get moved when it's close to home. The only time that they start to react is when it affects them directly.
No, but also, I saw a TikTok about this, and I can't remember what the budget was on the VIP protection that the government had put in place a while back. I think it was quite big. It was something like I don't want to quote how much it was, but the thing was, right. How are we spending so much money on VIP protection, and then I don't know how many guys came in and did this, and they get away with it, and they steal firearms, and they steal, like, how do we spend this much money on people and then bodyguards still can't protect anything?
Now they need
I mean, I
counseling.
know the police forces, we all know how the police
well,
forces.
these VIP protection units are supposedly among the most well-paid policemen that we have. They're also among the most well-trained policemen that we have. But they're the same people who you will remember a little while ago, our deputy president's protection officers were the ones who pushed that car off the road and then beat up a civilian.
Oh
Remember?
yeah.
Yeah.
Same guys. Same.
So if
So
I
are
were,
we, is this
Aaron
inside, do you
Judge-
think?
well, no, I don't think it's not. These are just opportunistic criminals, but it shows you how crap the best, in inverted commas, police officers we have are. If 2, 3, 4 common criminals can just hijack the Minister of Transport, get past her bodyguards, and now they're going for counseling. I mean, really.
No,
Do
come
we have
on, get out.
any serious people left in the world that this has
Again,
happened? Yeah.
like If we're to put a list of the things that are important in the world, number 4,897 is the fact that these bodyguards now need counseling from this traumatic experience. Come on, guys.
Anyway, I mean, look, I feel sorry for anyone who's been in a hijacking, to be perfectly honest. I've got sympathy for the minister in this case. She was probably on her way to do something which hopefully would have made, I mean, I'm really giving her the benefit of the doubt
No,
here,
you really are. I was going to say, you're pushing this thing.
let's imagine she was on her way to a meeting where she was going to, I don't know, negotiate with local transport authorities to make it a bit cheaper for people. I don't know. I'm willing to believe that there's the tiniest possibility that she was going to do something good and ministerial.
Good.
But even if she wasn't, nobody deserves to be hijacked.
Yeah.
No one. No one. We don't
No.
want that happening anywhere in this country to anybody. So I don't take any joy in it. Okay. But the fact that this is happening shows you how bad things have got. If it is happening to ministers, that in fact is all the evidence you need that our Minister of Police and the justice system have lost all control.
100%.
You know? So it could just as well be your mom or my mom or your aunt or your sister or someone. And you wouldn't want this to happen to them. And the difference is that they wouldn't have 2 protection officers with pistols along. By the way, I mean, how bad do you have to be to lose your pistol to common criminals?
This is what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
as a bodyguard, you're trained, right? You're the pro, right? To manage these sort of situations of this nature. I'm sure there's some sort of trick or tactic you can put in. But if you just get robbed and just take it and now you need counseling, it's a bit suspicious. And also, like, is just a random criminal just going to go up and rob a minister? Like, I don't know. If I see a minister's vehicle as a criminal, I'm like, hey, maybe that's not the one.
So
You know, it's
already-
definitely not a civilian's vehicle.
Already people are saying in the comments, hanging out with Jay says, oh, there's no way that, you know, this couldn't be. There's more to the story. A minister's robbed by common criminals. No. I think in a situation like this, it is best to underestimate the ability of the bodyguards than to overestimate the ability of the criminals.
This is true. If they need counseling, then
Yeah,
how
I'm
much
thinking-
bodyguarding, how much experience do they have as bodyguards?
We should get them on with
Like,
Dr.
I've seen that
Dr.
Whitney
Hanan.
Houston movie. I know what a bodyguard's supposed to do.
Right.
Like,
And we
come
all
on.
know- And we all know that the person the bodyguard is guarding always has a beautiful singing voice, and they
Right?
you know, all right.
Oh, man.
Anyway, I mean, the fact that this should happen is just unbelievable. This is just crazy. Julius Malema says,
Oh. Yo.
That's what everyone says.
I don't know.
he says, listen, he's got a lot to say. He says criminals should be shot. He says violent criminals who threaten law enforcement officials should be shot. The latest Stats SA figures show a spike in police killings. 31 officers murdered between April and June. Malema claimed his party will govern after next year's elections and fight crime by ensuring police officers have regular lifestyle audits. Addressing supporters in Gauteng, he laid down the rules for electioneering. He forbade ground forces from disrupting the meetings of other political parties, banned displays of opulence, and insisted on accepting criticism. Well, if you're going to ban opulence, my friend, then you also shouldn't be wearing those expensive watches that we always see you wearing every time you dress up for an event, because we know you
Sure.
got them. So you just,
Mhm.
speaking with forked tongue, you're just a hypocrite. Can't take you seriously. Plus, aren't you the guy who shot a gun into the air the other day? Aren't you a guy who's been charged with negligence because of your discharging of a firearm in a crowded place with a bunch of people around? You are not the person to be telling the rest of us how guns should be used.
Honestly. Start with yourself. How about you use yourself as the example and then we'll take it from there?
This is like us taking romantic tips from Oscar Pistorius. That's what this is.
Ooh, Too
Wow.
soon, Gareth.
Wow.
Here's
Too
how you
soon.
treat your girlfriend, brought to you by Oscar Pistorius. Here's how you use a gun, by Julius Malema. Or here's how you don't show that you are masquerading around as a poor person when actually you live in absolute opulence, by Julius Malema. Don't believe you.
I saw on Twitter yesterday, everyone's saying that he's Zimbabwean. Is that true?
No,
No, this is
definitely not. He grew up in Limpopo.
Okay.
I
No,
mean,
I'm just curious. Everybody's talking about it.
no.
But even if he is, so what?
Well, if he is, then he can't
Yeah,
run
he
for
can't. He can't. You know what we should actually just be doing? You see, between now and like in the next 6 to 8 months, what we're about to see from all these parties that are trying to run and govern the country, it's going to be such a movie. Suddenly things are getting fixed. The ANC is putting in things. If there hasn't been water, now suddenly there's water. These people are campaigning their butts off. They truly are. And if they're not campaigning and showing what they can do, they are talking out of their asses. Everybody is trying to get our attention
this.
and just be the guy. It's so interesting. Yo.
Let me ask you this. Apparently, yesterday the EFF stormed a Woolworths. I'm not sure if it was a nationwide, coordinated thing or whether it was
Also
just one
heard.
store. You saw this. They went into a store and they supposedly were going to take Israeli products off the shelves, but they ransacked the store. Now,
Mm,
it's interesting that the leader of the EFF, the third most popular politician in the country, should be saying, "This is how we'll deal with criminals," when his own organization is being criminal. You are not allowed to go into a store and just pull things off the shelf and ransack the store. And I don't
mm,
understand why South African corporations tolerate this shit. Woolworths has got money. The board of Woolworths should have met last night in an emergency meeting. They should have said, "We're upping security at all branches
Yeah.
and we're arming our security with deadly force because we have a right to protect our property." And if someone breaks into a store, Julius says he'll shoot criminals dead. Well, similarly, if you're an EFF rioter stroke looter and you break into a Woolworths store and start ransacking, you should be shot dead too. By
You
your
see,
own party leaders' standards.
exactly.
Dead. Just dead. So there is no reason for us to, as a society, have to be afraid of this bunch of rabid morons.
What is annoying is that we have to rely on private security and private money to actually make people feel safe and not have the government prosecute these people to the lengths of the law. Like, we shouldn't be needing private security and private
Ryan,
money, but unfortunately, this is
Ryan,
South
in
Africa.
the end, you have only yourself to rely on. But if you're a big company that has lots of money, you can pay for private security, and you should not have to worry about rioting members of a certain political party.
mm.
They should know that they're taking their life in their hands when they go into a store and behave like this. They should know that there's a very high percentage probability that they're not going to make it out of the shop alive.
So
It
I,
would
I
seem
think
to me-
they still trying to actually prove that this was yesterday because there's only one official video. It
yeah.
may be like one of those repurposed videos
Mm.
from the lootings or whatever. So we don't know for sure that this happened. But also, it's not far off for the EFF, which is the real sad thing. Is that if it did happen, it'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, it seems legit.
It's
Like
on brand.
it's on brand, and that's like the real problem. You know?
Yes, exactly. That is a problem. You're right, Lebang. That's
Mm.
spot on because this is part of their DNA, right?
And I,
Their
I think it's
brand.
just a talkability thing. They just want to mess around so that we can just sit here and talk about them and not talk about anybody else during this exact season. I mean, what period is this? This is election season. It's campaign season. Who are we talking about? We're talking about the
And
EFF.
and there's a special place in hell for people who are using old videos and making it
Yeah.
seem like it happened
Oh,
yesterday. As much as I would get annoyed by the EFF if they did this again, and it would be completely wrong and they would deserve whatever came to them, there's something very, very twisted. There's something really sick and
Mm,
foul and dirty and insidious about the sort of person who would repackage a video like that to make it
mm.
look like it happened yesterday.
Sure. No, it's marketing 101. They got like the right PR person to sit and say, how do we trend? What do we need to do for them to just talk about us? I know, let's get something from the archives and make it look as though. And unfortunately, social media eats that stuff up.
Sweet Pea says Watercrest did not happen. I called the store. The videos from Watercrest Mall, July 2021, says Slippery Pickle. So, guys, who would do this and try to pass it off as this is happening now? Not because I'm interested in protecting the reputation of the EFF, but this is the same as those people who send you a message on your phone about how, oh, you mustn't use this road because they've blockaded it and there are stones, and you get there and there's nothing. You're like, guys. I mean, I even want to say, like, my insurance company sends me these things to say there will be severe storms in your area. Be careful. And then I drive through like drizzle for 5 minutes.
I mean, it is, as you say, it is election season. Shall we not be looking out for sabotage? I mean,
Yeah.
very possible.
It could be another party trying to, make EFF look bad. Or it could be somebody from inside the EFF is what I'm saying. They could be planting things for themselves just to trend. And I wouldn't put it past them. I would not put it past them to pay somebody $500 from wherever they live and say, hey, post this and make it seem as though, and then spread it. That's all. That's all it takes. Forgetting that Twitter is not a real representation of the whole country. Twitter's like 7-8%.
Yeah.
So, hey, just watch. These next few months, we are about to watch a movie, ladies and gentlemen.
I agree with you, but it's sad. And even more sad than any of that stuff, the really upsetting part of these people who want to actively make the rest of us worried about news that isn't happening.
Hey.
Fake news, people.
Hashtag fake news.
I want to know that we should be able to track that video down, right? I mean, don't these things have like a stamp on them from the person who originated it? Can't we trace it back to the person who decided to, because they knew, whoever it was, that they were putting out fake stuff, because they even chose a shop that wasn't being ransacked. And this broke while I was sitting in the office yesterday. And I was like, does this really happen? Let's just wait. Because I said, let's just wait half an hour before we start believing whatever it is.
Panicking, yeah. Yeah, that time they probably used a burner phone. Like, these people go to lengths, Gareth, to like not reveal their own identities. Yeah. And fake news is so popular. And it's easy. The problem is it's so easy to put whatever you bloody want on the internet. And you know that you'll have an audience. Somebody out there is going to believe you. Look at Dr. Matthews. Oh, my bad. Look at Matthew. Just look at him. And he just got off scotch-free because apparently lying is not illegal. I mean, what kind of a country? Did you see the UNISA graduation yesterday?
No.
The fake one. People like scammers have gone and hired out like town hall and put some chairs in there and have put on a whole fake graduation. Now they're all going on Twitter. Oh, finally got my doctor's degree and blah, blah, blah. Eunice's like, no, sir. No, ma'am. It's crazy. You just put it on social media and it's legit. This is the time we live in.
I'm surprised Eunice is even aware of that.
People were tagging. People were tagging Eunice like, is this y'all?
Yeah, but Eunice, you can't get a hold of at the best of times. I'm surprised they even saw any of that.
Well, they do
Poor
have a
students.
Twitter.
I feel sorry for students today. But anyway.
Yeah.
Well, the president just pulls that "I'm shocked." Everything's always shocking to him. It's so shocking. I can't believe this is so shocking. Okay, just before we go to the break at 7, I found this great video. I can't believe someone would record this, of Amy Schumer taking a shit. Look at this. Unbelievable.
Yo.
I can't believe someone would record her in the wild like that, just taking
I didn't know she was in Ace Ventura. Sure. I thought I saw that movie.
All
right. Take a quick break. We'll be back in a second.
Norris was epic.
He was just driving the pass off that car.
Epic. I was watching, like, what is he doing that's different to the other drivers? He's cutting those corners.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
He's driving like a Monzo back in.
He was ramping over those corners. He was just, and that was what was giving him his edge.
It's funny because Maxim was trying the same thing, and that's how he crashed. That's how he got the red flag. So those margins are so small. But Lando just figured it out, and it was fun to watch.
Well, I mean, you got to wonder, okay? So they've got this ride height problem.
Yeah.
That they had in the previous race that
Charles and Hamilton got
penalized for. Okay, and they were genuinely, over the line. So you got to wonder, okay, so can I gain more of a better lap time by lowering the car, or by making the car slightly higher, but then being able to drive over the curbs?
Catch us every Monday at 9 a.m. on YouTube and on autotrader.co.za.
To our valued partners, thank you for being part of our journey in leveraging the power of podcasting as part of your marketing mix. The explosion of podcasts and vidcasts is more than a trend, it's a meaningful way to create lasting connection. CliffCentral.com is a unique hybrid of live streaming and podcasting that brings valuable experience and insight. If your business isn't doing podcasting, contact us at contact@cliffcentral.com. All right, it's time for a cacophony of jabberings this morning with me and Lebang. You know a cacophony of jabberings.
There is a cacophony of jabberings at that corner. Please come to silence.
Right, that's right.
Kids at the back of the bus.
A cacophony of jabberings. All right, so I hope your day is off to an awesome start this morning. I hope that you're ready to take on all kinds of exciting things. We also have the author of a book who is joining us this morning. Her name is Nikki, and she has just written an incredible memoir called Fraud, which is a powerful story of unmasking the self. It's a tale of a young mother who's forced to examine a life of lies and deceit from behind bars. That's right. An unexpected encounter in a grimy prison who gives her the wings to fly free. So it's a true story. She was sent to Nopoort, a rehab center in the remote Northern Cape run by a pastor who brandished a tattoo of Satan. And in this hellhole, she met Jake, a handsome son of a wealthy Afrikaans family. And this is all from somebody who had a terrible heroin addiction and has rebuilt her life from the start after that. And I thought this would be an interesting story to get into. You know, very often we have famous people that come in, they tell us, oh, you know, my life's been really hard. I drank too much at one point, or, you know, I had this problem or whatever, but I got over it. Very seldom do we speak to someone whose life actually unraveled to the point where they ended up in prison. Right, Lebang?
Yeah, no, literally. But it's also true that it's as soon as you start fixing things, those things from the past find themselves creeping in and just revealing themselves. So it's always interesting to see like how people deal with that. So that's what I'm interested to chat about today.
Well, her name is Nikki Munitz. She's with us now. Hey, Nikki, how are you?
Good morning. I'm good, thanks. How are you guys?
Good.
Good.
But how the hell does someone like you, who comes from a private Jewish school in Joburg, who has a family who care about her, how the hell do you end up in, first of all, Nopoort, which is this notorious rehab center? We always hear about it in the news. It seems to occasionally get a couple of people off of the drugs, but it seems also to be full of real psychopaths who just want to inflict all kinds of harm on people. Certainly, that's the impression we get from the stories that sometimes come out about this place. There are also lots of people who say, oh no, it's been terrific for me. But then you also end up in prison. Wow.
I didn't just end up in prison. I was 8 years clean when I landed up in prison. So yeah, the story is a bit of a back to front, a consequence that came to bite me many years later.
And all of this came about because you support Liverpool. Unbelievable.
Right, this is the shrine. If it was because I supported Liverpool, it would have been worth it.
All right, let's be serious for a second. So tell us the story. I mean, I don't mean for you to give up the whole reason that people should read the book, but how does this happen? Where did your life start to unravel?
I think my life started to unravel from, the very beginning. It was a complete setup, every piece fitting perfectly in order to create that perfect storm. I did this inner child workshop the other day, and I found this picture of myself at school, and I was amongst the top achievers, and I had colors all the way down my blazer, and I had the biggest smile on my face and would have been voted least likely to stuff their lives up. But internally, that isn't how I felt or what I was experiencing at all. It was all just the facade.
What was going on internally? Were you suffering from severe depression? Did you have more severe mental illnesses than that? Was there a lot of anxiety? Were you on medication? Like, how does it all begin? Because you sound like the kind of daughter that most parents would dream of having.
I think I was the kind of daughter that most parents dream of having. I think my family wasn't the family that most kids dream of having. And I really just spent my time, kind of pretending that everything was okay when it really, really wasn't. And I thought that what I was experiencing was really different to what everyone else was. I now know, especially since publishing the book, that that's not the case. A lot of people grow up in really dysfunctional homes, probably the majority of people.
But how dysfunctional?
Well, I mean, I was the last child of four, the baby of four. I've got three older brothers. My father died just before I turned 10. So my mom had four children, all under the age of 18. And she was quite mentally unstable. She is still alive. So if she's listening to this, I will tell her that to her face. And I think to some degree she knows that. But I think she doesn't understand or acknowledge how that severely impacted me. Yeah.
All right. So, I mean, drugs we know are a bigger problem now than they probably were when you and Lebang and I were at school and at varsity and post that time, because I think a lot of people, it's just become very ordinary for people to be doing drugs. And I suppose that most people think, well, what's the harm? I just smoke a bit of weed every now and then, or maybe they do something a little bit more hectic than that. But heroin is always the one that you hear. You think, no. That's the thing that I definitely know. None of my friends do any heroin.
Yeah. That was always like the worst of them all. Like, it's like entry level is weed, and then it gets a little bit more hectic. But like heroin was always like quite scary. How did that, was that like as a result of, how you grew up and how you felt as a child?
Yeah. For me, I felt exactly the same. Cocaine was okay. Heroin was terrifying. And when I met the person that introduced me to it, he said to me, don't believe what you see in the movies. It's all dramatized and it's really not that bad. And, you'll be able to have a big night out and you can use heroin and you can go to sleep and you can be okay the next day. And I believed him. And so I tried it. And it wasn't that bad the first time.
So how does, because heroin is different, that you have to inject it, right, for starters?
No. Initially I started, no. That's why I thought, like what I saw in the movies was not true. Because yes, you can inject it, obviously, but that wasn't how I initially started. I started snorting it and smoking it. And what I didn't know is that it became so quickly physically addictive. So within 3 days, I was already in trouble.
Wow, 3 days.
Yeah.
And what does it do to you that made you so addicted? Like, what does it feel like to do heroin?
it feels like the ultimate euphoria. There was an experiment done with baby guinea pigs that, every time you took them away from their mothers, they would scream. Then they gave them heroin and they wanted nothing to do with their mothers anymore.
Damn.
And for me, that was the most perfect explanation of what heroin gave to me. It was like I thought I had found the Holy Grail. That was really the experience for me.
So it's just this absolutely, you use the term euphoria. It's just this perfectly happy, satisfied, warm, fuzzy, life is
Correct.
great feeling that is the opposite, I suppose, for a lot of people of their reality.
Absolutely. Just feeling like I needed for nothing anymore, that I'd had that warm hug that I'd been craving so badly. I now had it, it was there for me. Yeah.
And so it was also filling a hole in your life. I mean, it wasn't just like a recreational drug that was making you feel extremely happy for that time that you were on it, but it was also closing up wounds that you had from family and from growing up and things that you were definitely missing.
I'm always reluctant to, say that, to blame something or why I use drugs. And of course, I run a rehab and we teach our clients to take responsibility. But the reality is, this is a survival mechanism. And no one becomes addicted to drugs just because, it's random. It's not random at all. It's filling some need that I'm unable to meet in any sort of healthy way. And that's the perfect storm.
Nikki, how old were you when you first, started using heroin? And also, what was the point where it was like, okay, I need help now? Or was it a case of you didn't identify you need help, but maybe somebody in the family was like, our child needs help? Like, what was that turning point? And when exactly did you start? Like, how old were you?
I was 17 when I started. And within 2 weeks, I already knew that I needed help. It's so funny because all my drug addict friends were like, oh, you need help. When your drug addict friends are saying to you, like, there's a problem here. That it's pretty serious. But it took me quite a while to actually get the help that I really needed. There was some, interventions of going to stay with my brother for a bit and him pumping me full of marijuana in order to try and deal with any sort of withdrawal.
Wow.
And there was a trip to try and get me away till I eventually went to rehab the first time, which I didn't take seriously. I mean, I was 18. And still had a lot to learn. And I was in Nopert. I turned 21 in Nopert. So that process was relatively quick. Yeah.
21st birthday in a rehab center. That's not how most people want to see their 21st birthday in. So, all right, let's just talk about Nopert for a second, because I'm still trying to figure out whether this place gets a hard rap just because they do hard work with people who really need to be treated in a very harsh way sometimes, because they're not going to break out of their bad habits any other way, or whether this place is just, run by psychopaths. So it's hard to figure out what's true. Tell me what Nopert is. Tell me where it is for starters, because it sounds very mysterious. And what kind of means and methods they use to get people off of drugs.
I can tell you what it was like then. I think it's changed somewhat now. I mean, I was there in 2001, giving away my age here. But, it was very different. There were no professionals at all. It really was run by psychopaths. And people also starts to get. And I don't think it's changed too much, but they have brought in some social workers and things like that. The methodology is there is that the only pill that you need is the gospel.
So filling the hole with another.
And when you complain about anything, the response is, if the crack house didn't kill you, then the off food certainly won't.
But I mean, you weren't even Christian, so them pushing Christian stuff down your throat, was that a tactic they just didn't care about, or?
Oh yeah, that's not optional.
Really?
Church for 5 hours on a Sunday, 2 hours every Tuesday and Thursday. Like everything is Bible based, but not for me, not the true like definition of, but rather just their version that they can use it in order to try and control you and manipulate the situation.
It's very strange. Okay, so I mean, did they help you at all? Is the point? Because if you got out of there and you were clean in inverted commas, then maybe that did give you a chance to start again, or did it not help you?
Well, I think I was really grateful to have a bed to sit in and 3 meals a day. But it didn't. I thought that my solution was finding my ex-husband and getting married and having my own family. That was how I managed to have this pseudo recovery for just under 8 years before I relapsed again. So they never actually taught me any skill tools that were going to be beneficial. If anything, my life took a severe nosedive, and my consequence was about 50 million times worse than anything that I had ever experienced in the past.
So just explain the story of this guy that you met in rehab, because this husband that you ended up marrying, this guy you met in rehab, which is always a good place to meet someone. If you're not on Tinder, guys and girls, if you're not on Tinder or on Bumble or on Hinge, you could always go to rehab to find the love of your life.
From one drug to the other.
What they say. You know what they say, when you find someone in rehab or in a 12-step meeting to get into a relationship, that the odds are good that you're going to find someone, but the goods are odd. That you should be really mindful of what you bring home with you. So he was gorgeous, and that was obviously my first attraction. And he was really funny, and he told me everything that I wanted to hear. I had grown up, as I said, my mom had 4 children under the age of 18. She was a single parent. Finances were tough, and his parents had dropped him off in a Rolls Royce, which I actually didn't know at the time. But the discussions that we landed up having was, I want to make you my wife and fight with you over the credit card bill. And I was like, right, where do I sign? Like, I'm in.
You got scammed.
Wow. You see, because drug addiction doesn't just hit poor people or very rich people, it hits everybody. And this is, I suppose, the hardest thing is that, a lot of very wealthy people go, oh, no, well, it could never happen to us because our child was raised with resources and means, and there's no way he'd end up on the street doing whatever he needed to do for his cocaine or his heroin or anything else, right? That's bullshit.
Well, I mean, you only need to look at a huge chunk of celebrities to know that that's bullshit.
Right. So you kind of fall in love with this guy, and you realize that it's not all, bed of roses. First of all, holding anything together, including your own sanity when you're an addict, is tough. We know that. And I'm pleased to hear that you're running your own rehab. We'll talk about that in a second. But then to be sharing a relationship with someone who is also an addict, both of you are fragile. You've met under the circumstances of being addicts. You're now going to start a family together. I predict a lot of crying.
A lot of toxicity, perhaps, even.
You guys make it sound so simple that you could just see. I couldn't see a thing. I really was completely blind. I thought this was love. He came from a family where his parents were still married. His sisters both have doctorates. And I was like, this is an amazing family that I'm getting involved with. And there was a draw for me. They were quite a hectic family in terms of things that they had been through. And it made them feel quite powerful. And I felt really grateful that they kind of included me as one of their own. What I didn't know is that the reason they were taking me in was to have me as kind of a live-in babysitter for their son.
Right.
Oh, that's messed up.
That's interesting, because obviously they were sick of looking after him and he was a problem. Now it needed to be your problem as well, not just theirs.
Correct. And I took that job on, no problem, under this premise that, first of all, I didn't really know what it meant to be a wife. I was really young when my dad died. And as I said, I came from dysfunction. So I thought that was kind of the role that I needed to play. I also, coming the type of abuse that transpired in the relationship, real physical abuse, emotional, mental, I really believed for a long period of time that it was me. I also had grown up being told that I was the problem, even by my own biological family, you know. So I thought I made him do those things to me, and I needed to be better. And so I spent just almost 10 years trying to be better.
Yeah, and because you know that you aren't a perfect person in any way, shape, or form, and you know that you're susceptible to a bunch of things, there's a tendency also to blame yourself for stuff that you aren't even responsible for, i.e., the stuff that your husband is doing or the stuff that other people are doing to you.
Yeah.
You go,
Yeah.
oh well, I was wrong on the drugs. I must be wrong on everything.
Sure. And at that point, if you've been doubting yourself most of your life, it's easy to slip right back into that space of anxiety. Like growing up, I was told I was wrong. I was the problem. Now I'm in rehab. I'm the problem. Now I'm in this marriage. Of course, I'm still this ongoing problem. Nikki, what was that turning point for you in the marriage where you're like, actually stop the clocks? Because they always say that a woman or whoever's being abused in a marriage, they'll try to leave the first time, they'll try to leave the second time, but they'll only actually leave like the 7th or 8th time. So what was it for you? Like that was the camel that broke the straw, that saying? What was that moment? Thank you, Gareth. When were you just like hurtful?
Yeah, for me it did feel like the camel that broke the straw's back. Yeah, so I think that I was almost forced into the situation, after the crime happened and the arrest, which, I'll talk more about. My legal team actually said to me, now's the time, you need to go. And I think it was more being driven by my children and wanting to protect them than to protect myself. I think if I didn't have kids, I probably would have stayed and died there. Yeah, so seeing my son crawling around with a syringe in his hand that he had found, a used syringe, that was a big kind of factor for me. But I only half left. We were living in Pretoria at the time, and I moved into another house in Pretoria. But it took my legal team saying to me, listen, this family is going to burn you. Like, you need to pack up your kids and go. That was the catalyst for me. Yeah.
And at this stage, were you getting like any support from your family? Like, how was your relationship with your mom at the stage and your brothers? Was anybody, there for you while you were going through all of this on your own?
So I had partly moved away. He had, kind of estranged me from my family. So I had started having contact with him because I had no choice. Being arrested will do that to you. You got to make a phone call, and who do I call? And yeah, so I was quite distant from them, but the process of reaching out to them had started, but it was still quite awkward. I was quite alone initially. During that period.
And obviously during this time also financial constraints, because the money's being spent on drugs. You got kids that need food, that need clothing, that need care. So there must have been a lot of pressure on the purse strings.
Absolutely. I mean, the interesting part for me is that I actually got clean like 3 months before I got arrested for the crime. So I was clean at the time when my son was crawling around with a syringe. It wasn't mine; it was my ex's. And so for me, it was that process of change had already started. Yeah.
Nikki, let's talk a bit about the crime. I mean, starting with this habit and the drugs side of your life, and essentially moving away from that, because now you've been able to identify how dangerous that is, not only for yourself, but most importantly for your kids. Now, how do you move from that into criminal?
Very easily, believe it or not. It's for me.
You're already a lawyer, so I mean that helps you.
I wasn't a lawyer, but I worked for a lawyer. I worked as a legal secretary, and I had access to the trust account. Not a good combination. And very much like drugs, I had this idea that I'd just do it once and I'd put the money back and I wouldn't do it again. And once became 37 times before, I actually.
How much money were you meant to have stolen? 2.5 million?
Correct.
Oof.
Yeah.
So when you go to court for stealing 2.5 million, that's a fraud case, you end up going to jail for how long? What's the sentence there?
So initially I got sentenced to 8 years, which is why this kind of it went on for so long and why I was 8 years clean when I went in. The crime happened in 2007. I was under investigation and only arrested in 2009. Originally sentenced in 2011 and only went in serving my sentence in 2015.
Good Lord. Okay, so while you're doing all of this, you're fighting this in court, you're trying not to go to jail, and you end up going to jail. Life carries on, and you've got kids. Those that you can't just put the kids on pause. Say, all right, mommy's got some shit to deal with. So what happens to them during this time?
I changed my life and I tried to live as best as I could that this wasn't happening. And I really believed in my mind that if I did all the right stuff, that, you know, there would be some other resolution that would take place. And I landed up getting this incredible job at, you know, one of the most prestigious rehabs in South Africa and really working myself up from an admin job to like a junior counselor all the way up to the most senior. And you know, really, I believe, you know, giving all of myself and growing in a career that I believe is my purpose. And thinking there's no ways after I've changed my life the way that I have that I'll go to jail. Turns out God had other plans and I still did go to jail. But at that time, I mean, I went to prison with the most incredible support. My husband that I'm married to today, he supported me and my children when I went into prison. My employer paid my salary while I was in prison. Like I had the most incredible support network. And so for me, I understand now that all of that preparation got me ready to be able to go and do something that was going to be really difficult. Yeah.
Had you had that happen at any other time? Sure, Lord knows it probably wouldn't have been. Yeah, it wouldn't have been the same result.
Yeah.
Nikki, you know, listening to you, I'm just thinking about, you know, the term "everything happens for a reason," right? Do you believe that you experienced all of that as some sort of like, you know, testimony, or like for you to be able to write your book, or for you to even just be able to sit here and speak to myself and Gareth today, just so that other people can hear your story? Like, it's a lot for one person, but it almost sounds as though you've come to terms with the fact that you had to go through that and experience that.
Prison, besides my children and my marriage, is the best thing that ever happened to me. It gave me perspective on my life. And I landed up doing a course on self-esteem in prison that changed how I see myself, how I see the world, and the work that I do today. And I believe that it is the cornerstone of our existence and why people land up so self-destructive in their behavior is this particular area of lack. And so the work that I do and the facility that I run is all based around self-esteem development and making those changes that people no longer need to live in a survival mode, because that's what I believe my life was, pretty much.
The book is called Fraud, but it's a play not only on your crime, but the fact that you were a fraud. You weren't being your real self. And I think a lot of people go through their lives and they never really encounter their real selves until it's too late. So when you talk about things like self-worth and figuring out self-esteem and things like that, which people, a lot of very, very capable, very brilliant people don't know how to access this part of themselves where they actually finally think that they're worthy. Many people in South Africa could benefit from this, and I know that this is part of your practice, but was there an aha moment, or was it just as a result of working hard day in, day out, repeating mantras to yourself, reading stuff, sitting around with people who actually know what they're talking about and listening carefully to them and internalizing that stuff? How does it come about?
You're absolutely right. Most people think self-esteem is about confidence. But for me, the reality was that if I think about my job, I was really confident. I knew I was good at what I did, but I still felt like a worthless piece of shit simultaneously. And so the self-esteem work was about getting to that place where I no longer felt like I was, you know, pretending to play a role. And what I was telling people versus how I felt was different, because that's pretty much how I lived. And it's about reparenting and reprogramming, because the information that gets given to us from the time we're born it's incorrect. And I believe as adults, we spend our lives redoing the programming that was given to us, from our parents, unintentionally a lot of the time. We need to kind of re-put that information into this computer processor so that we see ourselves in the world differently. Yeah.
I love that reparenting and reprogramming. It literally is every day. That's what we're like slowly doing, sometimes consciously, mostly subconsciously. Nikki, how's your relationship with your kids now? Like having had you for a little bit and then like you were gone, and then are you guys cool now? Do they ever, are you open about your experience in prison with them? Are they like completely involved? What's that like? And, being on the other side of it all.
My relationship with them is amazing. It's so funny. This morning on Facebook, I was reading, someone was asking a question. I had a drug addiction 18 years ago, and now my daughter's 16. Someone has asked me to come and talk to their kids. My daughter knows nothing about it, and we've got this incredible relationship I don't want her to know. I sat thinking, do you have an incredible relationship if they don't even know who you were or who you are? And for me, honesty has always been the cornerstone of my relationship with my children. I never wanted them to doubt their reality in the way that I doubted mine.
Sure.
That's
always been a part of.
Did it take you a while to start being honest with people about the stuff that you'd been through, or was it just impossible to hide? Because there's one side of that which is about being brave and courageous. The other side, which is like you can't get away from this. People will know if you've been. How long were you in jail for again?
9.5 months.
What's that like, that experience? Because I don't know much about women's prisons. I don't think they're very much better than men's prisons in South Africa. They may even be worse in some ways. What happens to you in there, and what's that experience like? Just give us the kind of the top line stuff about, here's the average day in a women's prison in South Africa.
Is it like in the movies?
It is worse than the movies. You become a number. You come into prison, they take your normal clothes, you get given a uniform, you lose your name, you just get a number. That's your identification. And you're in a cell with like 38 other prisoners, sharing one bathroom, one toilet that doesn't even have a door. It's kind of got a sheet around it, and 2 showers that you get 5 minutes in the middle of the night, because that's the only time the water gets hot. So you locked up from 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You hang a chip packet next to your bed in order to catch cockroaches so that they don't climb onto you in the middle of the night. And you wake up at like 11 o'clock midnight so you can have a 5-minute shower and go back to sleep before they come wake you up at 7 a.m. for your parade, where you stand outside and they count you and check you. It's not a pleasant experience. And I've had people, I was listening to your last thing about people getting away with crimes and things. I'm thinking, damn, why wasn't that me? But essentially I'm pretty grateful that,
in other words,
prison.
So to summarize, you would not recommend prison. You would not say this is like a 5 out of 10
not
on
on the bucket list. No.
Not on the bucket list. And people think I wasn't punished enough in 9.5 months. But let me tell you, one night in prison was not worth the 2.5 million in terms of experience. I'm really glad that my story unfolded the way that it did, and that I got to learn about myself in the way that I did. But wow, it's not a nice place. Really not a nice place.
Sure. I mean, it's 2.5 million as well. That's quite a bit of money. I think the burning question that everybody wants to know is, Nikki, what does a person do with 2.5 million?
Well, unfortunately, I'd love to say I've got something to show for it. I really don't. Anything of value that I did purchase, I sold in order to pay back whatever I could. A huge chunk of the money was given out to my ex and his father, and the rest are used on drugs. There was nothing to show for it in the end.
Isn't it very, very difficult not to slip back into the drugs when you're in jail? Because there's nothing else really. And although you had your kids on the outside waiting for you, and you had this support structure in the form of your new husband, and you had an employer, so you had a job to get back to at the end of it all. 9 months is a long time. There must have been many moments of despair there where you thought, my life is over. Like, there's no one who's going to accept me back into society. Nobody's going to go, oh, hey, Nikki, and invite me around like they might have before. I'll have to start from scratch. Maybe it's better if I just end it, or why don't I just take all the drugs?
I must say I did sometimes have those thoughts, especially marijuana is super easily accessible. Other drugs they do use, but it's not quite as prevalent as you would think, more challenging to get in. But, as I said, I was 8 years clean at the time. And for me, I always tell people that my heroin addiction was a life sentence and my prison sentence had an ending. Very different in terms of my thinking around that. And I was also really blessed. It sounds bizarre, but I came into prison and there was a woman who was on her way out. She had got her parole date and she asked me if I would be willing to take over her job, which was as a domestic worker for one of the captains. And so I got a job quite quickly. And so I wasn't with the main population during the day, only really from lockup. And I believe that was by divine intervention, because I would have gone mental sitting around all day. I actually don't know what I would have done, to be honest.
And how does the prison economy work? We're all fascinated by this. People have watched these series like Orange is the New Black, or you've seen movies like Shawshank Redemption. And, we hear stories about gangsters in prison and how it all works. But what is currency in prison? What can you get? What can you not get? How easy is it to communicate to the outside?
Very easy, considering we all had cell phones. The cell phones come from the prison wardens, that you deposit money into their bank accounts and they deliver it to you. And at the same time, then will come the next morning and search for it, as part of their jobs. And the rest of the time, the currency
it's like Take-A-Lot, but with the threat of it being taken away anytime you like. You're not sure.
You find the most incredible, creative ways to hide things. People make false bottoms in their coffee tins, in their hairdryer boxes, giving it to other people. You pay people with cigarettes in order to hide things for you. You can buy extra food with cigarettes. You can have your washing done with cigarettes. Cigarettes are main currency within the prison. Yeah, but you can get anything.
And Nikki, I mean, you can't sit there in your cell with your phone texting people, or can you?
Well,
I hope I don't get into a lot of trouble for that. People do. They really do. And when the prison wardens come and they do their walk by, because remember, you're in your cell from 2:00 in the afternoon until 7 the next morning, and they come and check on you maybe twice or 3 times. So there's 7 cells. So the first cell will see the prison warden and make like a noise. So the rest of the cells are warned, time to hide your cell phones. And then there's like a scurry and people do that. It's just...
because the minute you have a cell phone, or you can occasionally get something nice, even if you have to pay for it, prison doesn't sound so bad. It sounds just like most Gen Z people's daily lives, except that they can move around a lot more.
Well, yeah, I mean, that is probably the biggest difference, the moving around part. I mean, I'm making light of it, but when I came out of prison, I hadn't told anyone when I was actually coming out, because I got bail and I landed up going back in again because I fought again at Supreme Court. And when I came out the first time, initially the thought was that I was going to miss Mother's Day. And my children's school ended up canceling the Mother's Day celebration so that my kids wouldn't feel out. I mean, this is kind of the level of support that we all had. So sure, did we have privileges that we probably shouldn't have in prison? Absolutely. But did we also miss out on a lot? For sure. I couldn't say goodnight to my children and I couldn't hug them. And, my first visits were behind glass. There was no human contact whatsoever. It is still very much a punishment.
Nikki, how did you use your time in prison and your experience prior to that to fuel and influence the work that you're doing now? You mentioned briefly that you work at a rehab and you're obviously helping other people. How did you again use your experience and everything that you went through to influence what you're doing today?
Sure. So I think that in terms of the other prisoners there, for me, it was also a lead by example. So it was the way that I operated. And it's still something that I live by today. And, doing this course around self-esteem in prison, I came out of prison with a different knowledge of myself and realizing that mainstream rehabs do not offer this type of intervention to clients. Not, I don't think it's out of bad intention, but simply because it's not information that they have. And so I went on this massive quest to find out more. And the woman who designed the prison course is now my mentor today. I mean, she wasn't the woman running the course at the time, but I managed to track her down, and I worked on my own self-esteem for about 2 years with her. And then together we designed a course specifically to be utilized in a rehab setting. And now it's the main focus of the work that I do. And I run these workshops all over the world, which, I mean, for someone like Gareth was saying, I sit there thinking, what kind of life am I going to have? Let me tell you, beyond my wildest imagination, that's the life that I actually do have. For someone who is sitting in prison thinking at times, who would actually want to be with me? Who wants to be my friend? I'm embarrassed my children. I've embarrassed myself. All of the shame I'm carrying around. Now people invite me to present on an international stage. I'm like, how did that even happen?
That's phenomenal. And I think that's an important part of the story, because there are probably a lot of people who are listening to us now, maybe not so many, but there are maybe one or two who are listening to us now going, oh my God, my life is falling apart for whatever reasons, financial, health, relationships, whatever it might be. And they're listening to this going, well, clearly, that's still better than prison and a heroin addiction and being separated from your children and everything that you went through. And now you're on the other side, and life isn't just okay. You say it's beyond your wildest dreams, which gives the rest of us hope, that there's definitely a way out of everything. I mean, I think that's the most valuable thing that you could have said to answer Lebang's question. I love that. I think that's beautiful. Can I go back to prison quickly? I'm a little bit obsessed, but
yeah, Gareth needs to know more about prison.
Ask away.
What is the environment like? What are the other women like? Is there a kind of a code? How does it work? Because it's a whole society that operates in there. Where are you allowed to go? Where are you not allowed to go? What exercise can you do? What do you eat?
Sure. So, there's 2 sections in the prison in terms of your sentence. So if you're 7 years and under, you're in one section, and then 7 years plus, you're in a different section. 7 years plus seem to have a bit more freedom, which makes sense because you're in there for a lot longer period of time. The section that I was in were kind of the repeat offenders, the petty criminals. They go in and out, in and out. That's their life. And so I think what I experienced was quite different in that regard. And so you can't go anywhere on your own. You need someone to open a gate for you every time you need to leave one particular section. You need an escort with you. I was really privileged that I didn't have to have that because I worked for one of the most senior captains. I could kind of come and go. Obviously, someone always had to open for me, but I had a lot more privilege in that regard. And I put that off to the type of lifestyle that I was living that was completely clean and sober and already very honest, thankfully, at that point in time. It's just you have no say over your own life. If you have a headache, you can't go and get a headache tablet. If you are wanting to, I don't know, go to the shop to get something to drink, you can't do that. What the food is like, well, the morning is 2 slices of bread with some soya milk and some pap porridge. Lunch, which is about 11 o'clock, is like a protein of some sort. So it could be a piece of boerewors or 2 boiled eggs or a piece of chicken, some pap and some vegetables. And then there isn't really dinner because, as I said, you're locked up from 2 o'clock. So you get 1 loaf of bread to share between 5 people. And then the cell will get like a packet that's got either peanut butter or jam or something that you can have, to eat in the evening. And once a month, you're allowed to go to Snoopy, which is the shop. And you get 400 Rand. Your family's allowed to put into that shop, and you can buy things like, I still get like called bully beef, right? And you can get your biscuits or whatever treats that you want, or some pasta. And yeah, I mean, if you're hungry, like I said, cigarettes are the way to go. If I want more protein for lunch, I'm going to pay you 5 loose cigarettes, and you're going to give me your piece of chicken. So that's kind of the way. And when I came out of prison, I looked at myself in the mirror. I was so pale. My hair was falling out. And I said to he wasn't my husband then, he was my boyfriend at the time. And I said to him, why didn't you tell me I looked so bad? He goes, you were in prison. Did I need to make your life worse?
What do you miss? What do you miss the most when you're in there? What are you now so thrilled that you experience every day that you just take for granted before you go into prison, and after you've been in there, you're like, this is something I will never ever take for granted again?
Quiet and privacy.
Really quiet, huh? Because a lot of us seem to think that at night, for example, prison is quiet. It isn't.
It can never be quiet when you're in a cell with 40 people. There is never quiet, and there's never anywhere to go where you can just have time on your own. There's literally nowhere to hide. Yeah, I think that was the most challenging for me. I enjoy my time to just catch my breath and to even think. Yeah.
You got any tattoos? We spoke about that earlier.
I was waiting for that question. I was waiting for Gareth to ask.
I have many, but none from prison.
Okay, very good. Very good. She's just proving my theory, right?
And it's so funny because people had this feeling towards me because I have all of these tattoos that I was quite scary, but that was all part of my mask, right? At one stage I had really short hair, and they used to call me the short-haired, angry tattooed girl. And I came into prison and people were like, oh, she's hardcore. Meantime, I'm just a squishy marshmallow, and have always been on the inside.
Wow. This is interesting. Max Sony says prison is more like a stream of constant cash for corrupt warders. The same guys that bring in contraband are the same guys who expose you. You're in their world, really. Shape up or ship out. Are you afraid of anything since you got out of prison? Because I would imagine that the one thing it does do for people is that you've seen the worst, right? You've seen how bad life can get. You've been at the very bottom. And in some ways, it kind of makes you a little bit fearless in your own life.
Well, am I afraid of anything? No, because I live with the knowledge that I can handle whatever comes across my path. I do believe that. I'm really diligent about doing everything by the book these days. I never, ever want to land up in a position, not only to go back to prison where people doubt me in that way. So I live a really authentic, open and transparent life.
Yeah, because they're going to be looking for any reason to not believe you. You're like,
exactly.
Oh, this is who stole money and she's a criminal.
The prison lady. Nikki, what's the worst thing you saw in there? Like, did you ever see anything that was like, this is the bottom? Or was it actually not as bad as it is in the movies?
Well, I mean, I think it's a bit of a funny story, but not so funny. I think it was one of the first visits that my husband came, and he was saying to me, oh, I made like a friend, because, the way they come to visit, they get on a bus, they park their cars, they get on a bus, and they get transported to the prison before they come in for the visit. And he was like telling me, I made friends with this family. And I was like, oh, yeah, their daughter's the murderer that had just been arrested recently. And he was like, what? What do you mean? And just the people that you would look at and think, no way, not in a million years, people that had done some really horrific things. And when you meet them, Like, you're like, really? Did you really do that? Like, I just can't believe it.
Sure.
Yeah. So that was probably the most shocking. I saw fights and things. People, there were times where people had fights and pour boiling water on each other. We had kettles in the cell. We could make tea and things. And then our kettles would get taken away, which is really not nice, especially in winter. We all have hot water bottles. It's freezing in there. And then we don't have kettles.
Are there any like makeshift weapons, like with toothbrushes that are like carved at the edge into like a little spiky point? I mean, we've seen it all. Yes.
Yeah. Listen. Yeah. So I never saw anything like that. The most dangerous weapon probably was the kettle. But as I said, in the like more heavy sentence part of the prison, it might have been different. Yeah.
And any friends that you made that you're still friends with from prison?
Friends is a really strong word. I really made some acquaintances while I was in there. It was necessary in order to function. But the person I'm still in contact with is the captain.
Oh, really? The one who you were the domestic worker for?
She's mentioned. Absolutely. In fact, I gave her daughter a job when I came out of prison, and we're still in touch. We speak relatively regularly. She's an incredible woman. Yeah.
And you didn't give her daughter the job as a return for favors that she'd given you in jail?
Yes and no. It was as to say thank you, because she really took care of me. But no, it wasn't a pre-arranged thing that, if you help me, I'll help you. It was really just to say, like, I'm grateful. I'm really grateful that you took care of me.
All right. So now you've got your own rehab, among other things. This is interesting. Lebang already asked you what from your experiences has helped you to do what you do now so much better and with so much more knowledge and understanding. But rehabilitation is very, very tough, and it varies from person to person, as I understand it. Is there any magic ingredient to rehab? Having gone through what you have, having seen it from people trying to convert you religiously and replace one addiction with another, to people who helped you to build up your self-esteem with that course that you did, which obviously is a big win for anybody who's addicted to anything, because the moment you value yourself more than the drugs, your life will get better. But are there other things that you think come into play here psychologically?
Absolutely. I think that there's two things from the the treatment side with the addict themselves. It's compassion and understanding. A lot of rehabs are only about either letting people get away with things because they've got too much of a sympathy for the client, or they're too harsh and direct. There needs to be a balance. And in terms of the family, it's about understanding that as you are the loved ones, you play a role in the dysfunction. So it's about also getting out of the way and letting the treatment unfold. Because often families interfere with the treatment process and it backfires every time. Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, thank you for sharing your story with us. I think if anybody's interested in this, and there'll be lots of people who will be interested in this, they should check out your book. This is what it looks like. It's called Fraud: How Prison Set Me Free, a memoir by Nikki Munitz. It's such a pleasure to spend time with you, Nikki, and thank you.
Thanks for having me. This was really fun. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I mean,
Thanks,
it's
Nikki.
more fun than jail, right? All right. Thank you, Nick. Nice to see you. All right, everybody. That's all we got time for this morning. We will see you tomorrow at 6 a.m. Have an awesome day.